My name is Lauren Hayes. I am 32 years old, and for a whole year, my family planned a $100,000 wedding for my sister down to every exquisite detail. They chose the floral arrangements, live music, and bridesmaids, but never included me. I was deliberately written out. At family dinners, they excitedly talked about color schemes while pretending I was not sitting at the same table. On my phone, I discovered a group chat called Team Wedding 2024 that never had my name. Then one night, I saw a child seat already strapped in the back of my car, as if my only invitation to this event was to babysit. When I refused to play along, my sister snapped that it was no wonder I was always alone. Still, I showed up on the very day they wanted me gone. And what happened inside that luxurious reception hall did not just shake my family's image of perfection, it completely shattered everything. Stay with me, because the moment the undeniable truth slipped onto that massive screen, there was absolutely no going back. I left the office much later than I wanted that Thursday evening. The harsh glow of my computer screen was still buzzing in my head as I walked out into the warm Austin air. My coworkers were cheerfully heading out for drinks, but I had the mandatory weekly dinner at my parents' house to get to. It was a tradition that kept rolling on whether I was actually in the mood for it or not. The drive across the city was almost painfully too familiar. Walking inside was exactly like stepping into a movie I had been forced to watch far too many times. The kitchen smelled heavily of fried chicken and onions. My mother, Barbara, gave me a quick, careless peck on the cheek before moving back toward the hot stove. The dining table was overwhelmingly crowded and chaotic. Jessica, my older sister and the bride-to-be, sat near the center with her phone angled carefully toward her lap. Ashley, my other sister, was busy spoon-feeding one of her toddlers while frantically scrolling her own glowing screen. The noise in the room was steady and overlapping. I quietly slid into an empty seat near the edge. I tried to blend into the conversation, but the answers came back as quick, dismissive mumbles. No one bothered to look up. So I leaned heavily into the exhausted role I always played, the quiet listener. Halfway through the meal, Jessica leaned eagerly toward our mother. They discussed the extravagant bridesmaid dresses and rehearsal dinner seating for a party that was easily shaping up to be a $100,000 spectacle. Ashley chimed in loudly about the designer cake tasting. The words floated around the dining table like celebratory confetti, landing on absolutely everyone but me. No one asked if I was excited about the big day. My eyes slowly drifted to Jessica's phone when she temporarily set it face up. The screen was brightly lit, and the top of an active group chat was clearly visible. Team Wedding 2024. The bold name flashed before the screen dimmed into darkness. A whole elaborate plan was happening entirely without me. The drive back to my apartment felt infinitely heavier than the drive there. When I finally parked, the Texas cicadas buzzed aggressively loud. I grabbed my purse and began walking toward the stairwell, but stopped dead in my tracks. A strange tug in my chest made me turn slowly back to my car. I opened the back door, and that was exactly when I saw it. A bulky toddler car seat was strapped tightly into the up. The very next Sunday, the dreaded family dinner came far too quickly. The kitchen table was completely covered in thick stacks of glossy printouts. Jessica was hunched obsessively over them, her lips moving rapidly as she whispered seating arrangements. The chart was organized meticulously by numbered tables with names printed in soft cursive. I scanned the expensive paper quickly. My name was absolutely nowhere to be found. Jessica casually circled a name, scribbled something down, and passed the heavy page to our mother. Barbara glanced at the detailed chart with a wide smile, then spoke to me with devastating casualty. "Lauren, you will help keep an eye on the little ones during the long ceremony, right?" It was not a genuine question. It was a firm placement. My absolute first instinct was to violently argue, to demand why I was given a demeaning role that stripped me of all dignity. But I just stayed completely silent. The following weekend, the erasure became even more painfully direct. I walked into the house and found Ashley twirling joyfully in front of the large hallway mirror. A long garment bag was unzipped, and soft blush pink fabric spilled out gorgeously. "Jessica picked out this perfect shade," Ashley announced with a proud tilt of her chin. "All the bridesmaids are definitely wearing this exact one." I froze instantly in the doorway. Ashley glanced my way, her bright smile twitching into something noticeably sharper. Yeah, Jessica's college friends, a couple of our cousins, me of course. Even Jenna from Dad's side of the family is flying all the way in. Jenna was a distant cousin we had not spoken to in almost 10 years. I tried desperately to mask the sharp sting on my face, but Ashley let out a little mocking laugh. Lauren, you would not look right in blush pink anyway. It is far too washed out on you, honestly. The breaking point arrived the next morning when I opened my work laptop. A new email subject line froze my blood completely cold. Contribution to wedding fund. It was a direct message from Ashley, written with cold, demanding efficiency. Each of us needs to chip in $1,500 toward the wedding fund, so we can seamlessly cover the final vendor payments. Thanks in advance, love Ashley. I read the demand over and over, my vision actually blurring with rage. They demanded this massive sum toward a $100,000 wedding that I was not even formally invited to attend. I aggressively hit forward and typed my friend Renee's name into the address bar. Renee was a brilliant attorney at my firm. Her supportive reply came in less than 15 minutes. You are under absolutely no legal or moral obligation to contribute to costs for an event you are explicitly excluded from. Feeling a sudden surge of confidence, I replied to Ashley and copied my lawyer friend into the thread. Thank you for including me, Ashley. I am not on the official guest list for the wedding, so I will definitely not be contributing a single dime. Ashley immediately replied with sharp hostility, but Renee stepped in before I could even touch my keyboard. Ashley, please completely refrain from directing financial obligations at Lauren. She is not a bridesmaid, nor has she been formally invited to the event. This matter is entirely closed. For the first time in my life, my sister had absolutely no quick comeback. But the petty retaliation came swiftly on social media. That night, Jessica posted a stunning photo of her expensive dress fitting. She had aggressively tagged nearly every single person in our extended family. My name was glaringly missing from the long list. Then, a sudden private message request popped up from Dylan, my quiet cousin who worked as a professional photographer. I saw that terrible post, he wrote simply. It is absolutely not right, Lauren. They are actively pretending you are not even there. Dylan revealed that Jessica and Ashley had shamelessly asked him to shoot their entire wedding for free in exchange for exposure, and ghosted him when he refused. You deserve much better, Lauren, he told me. Do not let them use you anymore. Desperate for peace, I immediately took 3 days off work and drove deep into the Texas Hill Country to a secluded wooden cabin in Wimberley. But the suffocating noise of my family followed me. The next morning, my phone exploded with aggressive notifications. I had been added to a brand new chat. Team Wedding 2024. My stomach tightened painfully. They had brazenly renamed our old family chat, drawing a massive dividing line. Not once did my name organically appear in their frantic plans. I was just a silent ghost watching their joy through a dirty glass window. I slowly pressed my thumb against the chat settings and selected mute for 1 full year. The sudden silence that followed was startling, but it felt exactly like vital survival. The final confrontation happened the late night before the wedding. My phone violently buzzed against the wooden counter. It was Ashley. I let it ring twice before finally picking up. Lauren, I absolutely need you to watch the kids tomorrow, she ordered instantly. You are the obvious choice. The sheer audacity of her entitlement took my breath away. I cannot, Ashley, I said, keeping my voice dangerously even. Her end of the line went completely quiet before she snapped back viciously. Cannot. What do you possibly mean you cannot? Tomorrow is the wedding. It is about family. I have my own plans, I replied calmly. Her cruel laugh was sharp and incredibly ugly. What pathetic plans could you possibly have that matter more than this? God, you are so impossible. This family bends over backward for each other, and you never lift a single finger. I have shown up, I answered softly, my voice laced with years of exhausted grief. Too many times. You are entirely selfish, Lauren, she hissed through her teeth, her voice dripping with pure venom. Cold and bitter. No wonder you are always alone. That is exactly why you do not have anyone of your own. I thought of the countless years The morning sun rose sharp and brilliantly bright over the hills. I packed my small bag with deliberate care and slid into a stunning olive green dress. It was perfectly simple and sleeveless, falling elegantly just below my knees. I wore no pearls, no diamonds, nothing flashy. Just me. I drove straight toward the expensive venue, a massive stone building crafted specifically to impress for a $100,000 day. Inside, the massive space glowed with hundreds of candles bouncing off crystal glasses. The moment I confidently stepped into view, the loud chatter of the room faltered completely. Heads turned rapidly. My mother's practiced smile stiffened instantly. Jessica blinked rapidly, her jaw visibly tightening as a flush crept up her neck. For one incredibly long heartbeat, no one moved an inch. Then, Aunt Linda broke swiftly away from the crowd. She wrapped her arms tightly around me, smelling faintly of sweet lavender. "You could not possibly be absent from this day, Lauren," she whispered fiercely into my ear. "Whatever else they maliciously say, you cannot ever be erased." When the grand doors opened for the reception, the guests flowed gracefully toward the tables. At the entrance stood the massive, gilded seating chart. I scanned the elegant lists methodically. My name was glaringly missing. A heavy hush spread through the crowd directly behind me as guests began to aggressively whisper. Connor, the groom, appeared near the chart. His laughter died instantly. He looked at the empty space where my name should be, then looked at me, and then glared across the room at Jessica. I let the terrible silence hold for a moment longer, then spoke incredibly clearly so everyone could hear. "It looks like I was not placed at a table. That is perfectly fine. I will easily find my own spot." My voice was completely calm, devoid of any wild accusation. That profound composure landed far harder than if I had screamed. Barbara stiffened in terror near the head table. I simply walked deeper into the extravagant hall and found a smaller table with 3 older, welcoming strangers. I sat down gracefully, my back. As dessert was cleared, the lights dimmed for the highly anticipated slideshow. A visual, edited journey of Jessica's absolutely perfect life played on the massive screen. The audience applauded wildly as images of her blowing out candles and holding babies flashed brightly. She was the golden center of their universe. But then, the loud music shifted. The next massive image filled the giant screen, and a collective ripple of pure confusion washed over the 250 guests. It was a beautiful, candid photograph of me. I was standing peacefully on the porch of the cabin, the sun glowing warmly behind me, my face completely unguarded and alive. Underneath my smiling face, a bold caption glowed brightly in scripted font. "Family is not complete without everyone." The heavy silence hit the room like a giant boulder dropped into still water. Someone gasped loudly near the very front. Jessica's triumphant smile collapsed in real time, her face turning violently red. Barbara froze completely in her chair, her lips parted in total shock. I looked toward the back of the room and saw Dylan leaning casually against a stone column. He gave me the smallest, most validating nod. He had infiltrated their perfect presentation. Another candid photo of me flashed briefly, cutting right through their glossy, fake reality. I sat perfectly quiet, my pulse thrumming with intense victory. For the first time in my entire life, I was visible, undeniable, and projected larger than life for 250 people to witness. Connor looked incredibly unsettled, glaring at his new bride with intense, undeniable doubt flickering in his eyes. The flawlessly polished illusion my family had built at such a massive cost was completely cracked open for the entire world to see. I left the venue before the dancing even began. The night air felt like pure victory. The next morning, I officially opened my brand new photography studio in Austin. I had planned the secret day for weeks while they obsessed over their shallow image. As friends and supportive neighbors filled my beautiful space with genuine laughter, I realized the ultimate truth. The greatest revenge was not aggressively forcing my way back into their toxic picture. It was building a beautiful frame of my completely own, one so incredibly steady and undeniable that their fragile lies no longer mattered at all. So I ask you, have you ever been treated as if you were completely invisible in your own family? Have you ever carried the heavy sting of being pushed aside, only to find massive strength in building your own successful path? Share your story with me in the comments below, because you are never alone. And if you want to hear more incredible stories of breaking